All right, guys, it is the one that we don't want to cover. We really don't, because we just hate this sort of thing, but we have to. Unfortunately, the Rivers of America has reached another critical point in its destruction, and that being the destruction of Fort Longhorn. From Blog Mickey, Fort Longhorn demolished on Tom Sawyer's Island at the Magic Kingdom, October 14, 2025. Fort Longhorn on Tom Sawyer's Island has been demolished. This is the first large structure to be demolished on the island, as Disney appears to be working north to south across the large construction site. New aerial photos from a friend of the site, BioReconstruct, show the rubble of where Fort Longhorn used to stand. And here's a closer look. As seen in the Tom Sawyer Island map below, Fort Longhorn was located on a separate island to the north of the main island. To access Fort Longhorn, guests would have to cross the since-demolished Superstition Bridge. Fort Longhorn was built on the edge of Indian Territory and contained several walking areas as well as a secret escape tunnel. And we'll have a photo tour after taking a look at the demolition. I believe they have the photos right here. You can see by Reconstruct's arrow pointing out where in this whole mess of deconstruction we are looking at right now. You can see right there the fort no longer there. This is extremely depressing because culture, I know you know this, this is the second of these forts that I've seen destroyed in my lifetime. That being Fort Wilderness out there in the original Tom Sawyer's Island at Disneyland. Apparently it was due to termite damage, but the maintenance unfortunately claimed it. And now we have lost another fort in the form of Fort Longhorn. Ron, I want to go ahead and know from you, what do you think about this development right here? I know a lot of people are still saying, hey, it's not too late, we can save this stuff. I think it's too late.
Oh, it's way too late. As far as what I think of it, it sucks. Okay, what else am I supposed to say? This is it was such an important thing to Walt Disney himself. Now I know that when I say that, people are going to go, but Walt Disney wasn't around when this was built because this is way after his lifetime. But he helped design the original Tom Sawyer's Island, and it was expanded at the Magic Kingdom to have this fort. We've got the vlog up of our last visit to the fort in the rain. It was amazing, but it's so funny because you got when you come if you came into the backside of the fort, if you go into the front, it's different, but if you come to the backside, right when you come in, you look to the left, it's like they've got this animatronic of just a sleeping cowboy back there, and all of this just kind of fun, for me, when I was growing up, one of the big things we always played, it was Cowboys and Indians. And now somehow over the years that became offensive. It was just play. It was just fun. This was part of it. Of course, there's legitimate history in the Old West and in the frontier. There it is, the guardhouse right there. They had animatronic horses back there in that structure. This was a great play area for kids, and I will never believe that this was not taken down because of the Story Matters group. I believe, in fact, that there are a tiny fraction, small percentage of people that decided to be offended by this whole Old West idea of cowboys and Indians and gunslingers and the fun stuff that we talk about, David Crockett, all of this. Fort Longhorn was a big part of that. And it was a blast. It was a fun area, and I know that they're replacing all of this with what makes no sense whatsoever theming wise for Frontierland, which is a Cars area, because even if you theme it to the national parks that developed out west, those national parks were at the more towards the end of the frontier area, the beginning of a new era. Like, it wasn't about frontier land. And if they wanted to develop that way and make it make sense with any theming whatsoever, they would have kept all this. And if you look in the construction areas, they absolutely have the land to do this. And they would have built the new Piston Peak area beyond Big Thunder Mountain. And then beyond that had Villains Land. And it could have flowed so much better and kept all of this preserved. And even if they wanted to rename the island something other than Tom Sawyer's Island, but at least keep it and keep some of the structures. My idea was to still keep this as an Old West frontier area and have it be themed to the tall tales of the Old West, Paul Bunyan and things like that. And it would have been really fun. They could have just rethemed it and updated the area and still kept all these wonderful things that they had back there, so that new guests or older guests could bring younger people, and grandparents could bring their kids in and say, oh, this was Fort Langhorne and now it's this, and it's developed. But it's never going to be that again. We're never going to get that experience again. And for me personally, especially with the cave exploration, and obviously me being from Missouri as well and having gone to the real life caves, it's just tragic to see this loss.
Culture. This is tough. This is definitely tough for me. I have such fond memories of going to Tom Sawyer's Island at Disneyland. To think that Walt Disney World visitors, especially kids, won't have that same experience going forward over here. Just like the kids in Southern California were robbed of Fort Wilderness back in the day. It just breaks my heart. Culture, your thoughts on all of this, please.
I've been struggling with the massive losses that we've been taking at all the parks. I think one of the reasons people returned again and again and brought their kids and grandchildren with them was for the nostalgia of, better times, simpler time, and being able to share these experiences at these places with the younger people, so that they have a vision of the past that, while not exactly, completely accurate, at least it, represented, the look and feel of various places. One of the catastrophes here is that they allowed for a politically oriented group to operate within the company to go about obliterating this based on political correctness. Now, for me, it's kind of some lost memories as well, because, I've worked in cattle ranches and things like that as a young person earning money, but, I'll just tell you that my first of all, my job resume is not as steep as this guy down here, but I have done some stuff. Every time I would go and see something like this, or even riding on, the riverboat, I would experience, some flashbacks of earlier parts of my life, and it's just so hard to think that this was erased because of a narrative, an inaccurate narrative of this time period. And, we should be celebrating and be experiencing the difficulties of the past and come to understand, how the country grew. And you're losing another way to do that. So it's just sad. And look, I mean, a lot of people, the resurgence of visitation on this island should have told them something, that this was a bad plan.
Yeah.
And, for them, it's like, hey, we're going to get rid of this because somebody has bad feelings about it. Well, I have bad feelings about Tiana's Bayou. Are you going to get rid of that?
I have bad feelings about the queue.
Well, that too. But I have bad feelings about men dressed up, in different ways at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Do you not care about my feelings?
They don't.
Yeah.
You're a straight white guy. How dare they? You're not marginalized. You're butterized.
Well, I could use some weight loss, but that's okay. And I am Culture Lasso Tangle Casino. That's me. But actually, I never actually. Well, leave that for another.
I'll be honest with you, Culture. I would have loved for you to have taken over this area and put a garden in. And we could go out there, and I would
hating that.
No, I would rather go to this area and be able to pick out my purple potatoes than the crud that they're going to give us in Piston Peak. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but anyway,
I'm with you. Look, I mean, it's just the authenticity and the immersion is slowly being destroyed. In fact, I can't even say slowly. It's not even slowly anymore. I mean, the things are gone, not to return. And they probably have thrown out the animatronics that were in the area and all of the special things that were created for this. Just destroying this building. Again, this could have been stopped by the state of Florida, because Florida now has, direct jurisdiction over this, and this could have been declared a historic site, and they couldn't have done anything with it.
My slightly bigger surprise is that they didn't go, you know what, people really like this, we need to keep it, but we've got to make money. Let's put a bar back here. Let's put
a
saloon, and we'll have.
Well, they They already destroyed the shooting gallery with that idea. So let's not
Yeah.
give them, more places to put bars.
Oh,
Well,
golly.
and I, I never visited Fort Langhorne, which is super sad. But I did visit Fort Wilderness back in Disneyland quite a bit. I had seen its luster dull over the years. I mean, there was an incident in which a little girl lost the tip of her finger inside of a trigger mechanism with one of the mounted rifles right there, and they had to remove the rifles, and then the fort would only be open on a seasonal basis. Then it closed forever because of quote unquote termite damage. But there were some maintenance issues brewing in the parks for years as part of the Paul Bressler era, and unfortunately it was claimed because of that. Now you have like a generic fort, not open to the public at all, and it's only a staging area for Fantasmic cast and crew that make their way there. So it's quite sad when you lose these things, because you lose them forever, and there's really nothing in their place to make up for their loss.
I have to say one thing, and that is that I am grateful that they announced it when they did, so I got to personally spend as much time as I could at Tom Sawyer's Island, Fort Langhorne, and all of that before they destroyed it, because over the last couple of years I have gotten some really good time in there, and even with my family, and made some family memories, and at least we will have that.
At least we'll always have the memories.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.